Carrot cake or butter tart? More quintessential Canadian dessert.
Yeah, good one.
They're very good. Both
I'm
of them.
going to stick with carrot cake.
It has to be a good carrot cake, though. Yeah.
Here's Frank Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst, and he likes food too. How are you?
Let me chime in on this. First of all, carrot cake is elite. It is up near the top of my favorite desserts, cakes. Very underrated, underappreciated. I appreciate carrot cake. I am in agreement with you, Matthew. I will take a carrot cake over a Nanaimo bar. And
Any day.
Yeah. It's good. It's good, and it gets slept on. No one says I'm going to bring a carrot cake over.
It's an odd mix, right? Like, who would look at a carrot and go, that would make a good dessert?
Pineapple in there too, right? You put a little bit of pineapple in a carrot cake.
Is there pineapple?
You can, yeah.
Really?
It's nice.
Have you made carrot cake before?
No, but I watch a lot of people make carrot cake.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I was unfamiliar with the pineapple aspect of it.
Look it up. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, it stands to reason the sweetness,
like canned
right?
pineapple, yeah.
You know, you got to find sweetness somewhere.
Yeah.
I had I had an incident yesterday. I'm in Washington D.C. and I accidentally found myself in Shake Shack. It was an accident.
Yeah.
It happened.
They put one around you. You were just walking down the street and they built one around you.
You're walking around and next thing you know, you got a double stack with bacon and you're like, oh man, how did that happen? Yeah.
Recently, Blake and I went through some of those U.S. burger chains and which ones we like, which ones we dislike or just find overrated. And we had agreement on Shake Shack, I believe.
Maybe. I think I've only been there once.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
Short
not
House
White
took
Spot,
us
but
there.
it's good. It's not as good as White
Very
Spot.
true. Very true. I know it was a very late start. Did they put you to sleep, like, say, early to mid-second period last night?
I may or may not have checked out of that game when the Canucks checked out of that game, which is sometime in the second period. Yes.
Right.
Not for Connor Garland, though. Like, he tried to get things going. Big
Kiefer
fight.
Sherwood, too.
Crowd is chanting his name. Tried to get some life into his group, into the building, but that was, I don't regret staying up to watch it with a 10:30 start, but didn't need that extra 30 minutes of time to play with.
No.
It's a scary flashback, I think, for a lot of Canucks fans to the couple of years before last year, basically, where they had nice elements on the team still, like JT Miller, Alias Pettersson, Quinn. They were all there. But none of it came together on a nightly basis, and they ultimately just were not a good team in those previous couple of years. I think Canucks fans are a little bit worried about what they see right now. Again, it's not that the record is worrying. The record is not.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is not worrying. They are still, I think, as we speak, and we shouldn't be talking about playoff spots after 9 games, but you know what I mean. Their place in the standings is not the concern. It is what we are seeing with our eyes that is the concern, isn't it?
Last night, I would describe it this way. It was a cute off. It was the Canucks were trying to be cute with the puck, and the Devils, under Sheldon Keefe, the way they play, they don't dump the puck in and go forecheck you. How many times did Jesper Bratt or Jack Hughes bring it back and regroup and try and attack off the rush? And so when a team is playing that kind of game, you can't get into that kind of game with them. And I thought Vancouver was trying to do too much, quite frankly, whether it was with the puck, full possession turnovers, turnovers in bad areas of the ice, not clean on breakouts. And then even without the puck, that first goal of the game, Tyler Myers, that's one where you just live to fight another day. Like, that's just pretty simple. You got to accept the 2-on-2. Instead, you dive in. Like, it's trying to do too much. I think there's an overly cute element to their game that they have to find a way to get rid of and get back to the more, and this sounds, super old school dinosaur-like, but just get back to the simplicity, the meat and potatoes kind of, style of game that if you do that, then the skill will have more room afterwards. I think it's overly cute right off the bat right now.
Well, I want to bring everybody back then to the discussion we were having on the eve of the season and a couple of games in, and that is, in the aim to generate more rush chances, do you leave yourself exposed a little bit to getting away to what was your identity, and that was team defense? And it seems like everybody, Frank, is skewering, including Vancouver Canucks, the team defense and getting away from that quote-unquote talk it a staple? Or are they a little bit mixed up here, a little bit caught between two aims?
And I think the danger of that right now is that they're not any better off the rush. They're actually worse than they were last year. They're like second or third last in the NHL at generating rush chances. So if that's something that they wanted to improve on, they haven't, and now other aspects of their game have fallen, which is, we're probably making it seem like it's worse than what it is because the record is fine, and there's a lot of skill on the team, and ultimately, if the team plays up to their capabilities, this I think is different, Blake, than in years past where you just didn't have the guys, you didn't have the horses, so it couldn't get any better. Like this can look way better, it can feel way better. It's just they're just not quite connected in the aspects of the game the way they were last year. Like the breakouts don't lead into the rush, doesn't lead into the offensive zone time, and that doesn't limit time in the defensive zone for them. Like it's not flowing the right way right now, but because you have good enough players, it can, and I'm sure it will. But that's, if you were giving up one or the other, if you were trying to give up a little bit of something else to get the rush going, that hasn't exactly worked, which is, not ideal.
Yeah, so let me ask you our poll question. What do you think needs the quicker fix now? Team defense, Elias Pettersson, or something else?
Ooh. It is a good question. My first thought is Elias Pettersson. That's my first thought on it. Just because, you're paying him a lot of money, and that's always the first thing that's going to come up, is that when you eat up that much of the salary cap, you have to contribute that much of the production. Someone on Canucks Twitter, I can't remember which account it was, put up like a whole bunch of clips of Pettersson and Kuzmenko scoring goals that one year that Kuzmenko had all those goals. And I was like, that looks so different from the Elias Pettersson that we have seen this year. Like that guy looks so confident and like almost brazen to make these really dynamic moves and passes, and like, boy, is he really like drawing people into him, and then as he sucks them in, he's gone, and he's got that element of that quick step, and I'm like, I don't see that from him right now. And I think team defense is one of those things as a group. Coaching staff can address that, and that can be fixed. I think we saw that last year. The Pettersson thing is like, if you have to find something special, and even though he's done it in the past, you have to find something special, that's harder. Like that for me, like, that's a big time separator. And we're not seeing the separator from Elias Pettersson right now. And I think, watching those clips, I was like, what a great reminder of just how special a player he can be, but we're not seeing it this year.
End of the second period, their time is winding down. End of the second, I think it's end of the second. Face off with 4 seconds left. Puck goes to Alias Pettersson, and no one's around him. Just play breaks down for the Devils.
Yeah.
No one is around him. Right on his stick. And he triple clutches before eventually unloading the shot after everybody's sort of gotten into place, including the goaltender, and it's right into his crest, and it's the easiest save of his life.
Quick chest.
Like, what's going on there? Like, it's like he desperately wanted to pass off to somebody. He couldn't find anybody, and then resignedly said, I guess I'll shoot.
Yeah, I think he wanted to defer, clearly. And then the other thing, it's like, okay, I know the clock is going to run out, so you think you got to get the shot off ASAP, so maybe you don't take a step in. But he actually had some room to, like, move his feet. But I feel like in his stance, he was so wide. This is like really breaking it down, but it felt like he was so wide that he couldn't, bring it in to like get moving. And so he kind of got stuck with the shot. And okay, let's say that's the case. You couldn't pass, you couldn't move because you were stuck in the train tracks, but you took the shot. That shot was, I'm like, I've seen him shoot the puck way harder than that. I've seen him pick a corner better than that. I'm like, it's not going his way. It's just not. And I don't know, like there was over the summer talk about the tendonitis and the knee and all that kind of stuff and having to manage it. I'm sure that factors in. Like, we'll never know for sure because that kind of stuff just doesn't get talked about in the media availabilities, and that always, kind of gets kept hush hush. But if you're trying to learn how to do, if you're expected to do the things that you did without the aches and pains, and now you have the aches and pains, that has to factor in. It just does, and I'm sure that's not helping things for him right now.
It's tough to watch in a lot of ways. What about a trade for a defenseman? We've been bandying that about. Is that going to solve some ills here as well? Is the bottom half of that D, maybe even the bottom 4/6 of that D, is it just not good enough? Soucy and Myers have been a disaster. Last night, the third pair was two guys that if they were in the American League, you wouldn't blink an eye.
Yep.
Is it just not good enough?
Well, and the pairs keep getting it's juggling the pairs right now too. Last night watching the game, I'm like, okay, there's Hughes and Brandstrom because it's an offensive zone faceoff, and then it's like, okay, there's Myers and Hughes, then there's Hronek and Hughes. I'm like, I don't know what the consistency is right now with that group, but that's troubling because you're not getting the continuity, and you're not getting the continuity because you're not getting, three pairs or at least two pairs that you feel like are playing. To expectations, not moving the puck as well as they can, not defending as well as they can, all that stuff. And so, when it comes to a trade for a defenseman, well, they just traded for a guy who moves the puck better on the third pair, Erik Brandstrom. But I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, wasn't overly dynamic, right? And then Toronto and San Jose just completed a trade where Timothy Liljegren, who makes $3 million, and he goes to San Jose, Matt Benning goes to Toronto, and it's like, there's available players out there for you. But if everyone played properly, like if Hronek and Hughes worked, if Soucy and Myers worked, if the third pair could give you 13 to 15 quality minutes, like on paper, it should work. It's just not working right now. So do you go out and make another trade? Like, you're going to make two trades in the time that, you could have told the guys, like, just play better. Like, we just need you guys to actually play up to your capability. Like, are you going to try and bail them out with two trades in before you hold them accountable to it?
Well, especially, Frank, Ole Mata goes for a third-round pick. Liljegren goes for a third and a sixth. And as we've talked about, those are playable NHL defensemen. But is that does that get you any further ahead in the playoffs? Like, is that what you need in terms of an impact defenseman? Let me ask you this. Your captain prefers playing with Filip Hronek and wanted Norris playing beside Filip Hronek. But would some of your troubles go away if Filip Hronek anchored his own pair and you had a little bit more depth in terms of usage of your defense pairs? Because right now when Hughes isn't on the ice, they're getting caved.
They are
5-on-5.
But the thing I would say to that is you can have Hronek on his own pair anchoring it, but he can't have a boat anchor with him. He just the way, if you're looking for balance right now, okay, that's fine. Hronek can go on another pair, but he's playing with a guy who's not playing great. That means Hughes is playing it with a guy who's making mistakes and not playing great. So you're almost like, don't you feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't right now? Because Hronek can play well on a different pair. But that means Soucy still has to play well. Like, you can't just have, one defenseman on two pairs who can give you something, and the other two guys are just trying to keep up. And I think that's why, in a game like last night where you're chasing the game, you see all these different mixes and matches of D pairings because you're almost trying to play in the moment if you're coaching that and be like, okay, this situation will call for this or this situation will call for that. It's not a great way to do things. But, to answer your question, I think if everything was going according to plan, Hughes and Hronek would stay together. Myers and Soucy would be dependable as a second pair, and you'd have a third pair that can get by to a certain degree. But I just think right now, if you have two guys on the second pair that are fighting it, you have to separate them. And I don't think it's enough right now to make up for it.
Boy, Zadorov would look pretty good on this team right now.
He would.
Huh?
It's hard to play that game because if he's on the team, somebody else isn't. But yeah, he would.
If he's on the team instead of Forbert and Dare,
I know what you're saying. Zadorov is making a lot of money for a long time, and I've watched Boston play, and they're struggling right now. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of the stuff he's doing with the puck, and I'm like, he could be playing for the Canucks right now with some of the mistakes and giveaways and some of the decisions.
He's an imperfect player. Yeah.
He's not. You have to take the good with the bad with him, right? And I still think there's still those big mistakes that come with him. I think for a guy like that, you see the benefit come playoff time when it gets a little meaner and nastier and the ice kind of shrinks up. And, being a big guy, he's part of that shrinking.
Last, of course, Seinfeld taught us about shrinkage. And
the shrinkage,
Last
Are women aware of shrinkage?
We don't. They are after the Seinfeld episode, at least of a certain vintage.
Yes.
That was a pretty well distributed show back in the day. Last question. Can they play Silovs again? Are you now Lankinen on a prorated 60-plus start schedule? Would you send Silovs down to the minors to play a lot and see if he can find his game? What would you do with the Artie party?
I think with goalies, going down to the minors doesn't guarantee confidence because, you go down to the minors and the game is a little bit different. There's more missed assignments. There's more of a kind of, mixed bag of what could happen. The game is probably more predictable for him at the NHL level, although he's facing the better shooters. And so I'm not always with the goaltenders. I'm not always of the mindset, send them to the minors. Whereas if it's a player who's not playing, like if he's playing 10 minutes a night, defenseman, you could go send him to the minors, play him 20, 22 minutes, and he'll feel like he's getting his reps, he's getting his puck touches. I don't think it's the same for goalies, but thank God they went out and traded for Lankinen because he's played stellar. And Silovs, this was the danger of coming back to him this year when it's not fresh, it's not new, you're not naive to the moment. Now you have some responsibility on your shoulders right away, and he hasn't passed the test. But, I think you do still have to put him in the net at some point. You're probably gonna play Lankinen more, but I think it's one of these things for me with the goalie where he might have to just play through it at the NHL level. And really what it starts, like he needs one good game where nothing leaky goes in. It feels like
you have two cellar dwellers coming up. You've got San Jose on the weekend, Anaheim early next week. Do you give Silovs Anaheim maybe the second of those two games just to try to get him? It's not back-to-back. Nope, you got time off.
Back-to-back. See, like the back-to-back is automatic. He's going in.
Right. But they haven't had a lot of those, so there's been no. Yeah. I mean, Lankinen can easily cruise over the next few games, if they wanted to.
I just think the team is probably in a little bit of a point where you want to start accumulating points and you want to, dial in your game, and you have a better chance of doing that with Lankinen right now. So I think those are two important ones to just keep Lankinen in the net, and then when a back-to-back comes up, that's when Silovs is going to have to be ready, and hopefully that one goes well. And it's not an easy thing for a goalie, right? Because you're going in a back-to-back with probably there's some travel and team's tired, but that's the nature of the second goalie in the NHL, and every second goalie in the NHL has to deal with that, and that's where he is right now.
Mark my words, Silovs versus the Oilers in a Redux matchup next Saturday. It's a McDavid-less Oilers. McDavid-less Oilers.
Back-to-back?
No, there's no back-to-backs. There's none for another month,
No,
Frankie.
there is.
Oh, so he's got
middle of November.
Middle
of November. They've got Chicago, Nashville, back-to-back on a weekend, both games at home. Prediction, Lankinen plays the next 6 games.
Woo!
I think the
and
Nashville
Silovs may not play at all because Demko might be ready to come back that weekend.
The Nashville one would be interesting because it would be familiar to him. Like you see the Nashville jersey, you're like, I got some good mojo here against this team. Like that's and if that doesn't do it, then you just got to keep trying to find it.
Wait till Demko.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your Prince. Thanks for this, Frank. We'll catch up next week.
All right, boys. Thank you.